1 year ago to the month, I played Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy and finished the Platinum Trophy. Before that game, I said very often that I hated platformers and that I just didn't like the genre. Wasn't a fan of the styling of the games, and I wrote the genre off as a whole. However, after playing Jak and Daxter and absolutely adoring it, I thought, alright, maybe it's not platformers, it's just what I've played before. So I've expanded my horizons and began to play so many more platformers since then. And by so many more, I mean this month, March 2024, I decided to play Yooka Laylee. Now, Yooka Laylee is a Kickstarter game, and we all know that is a mark for high quality. From what I remember back in 2015, it started up as a crowdfunding and was published in around 2017 with getting a PS4 physical release as well. Probably the worst $20 I've ever spent on a physical game. And I bought Skull Island: Rise of Kong. The game opens with a hub area that interconnects all of the worlds of the game. Your goal is to collect pages called Peggies, collect quills, and defeat world bosses. And my issues with the game arise straight away. Now let me preface all these criticisms with this. If you like this game, good on you. I'm happy for you. You enjoy Yooka Laylee, that is fine. I also understand this is supposed to be reminiscent of retro platformers, specifically Banjo-Kazooie. And my experience with platformers is overall fairly negative, though I do love Jak and Daxter. I understand that it's not the same era, though it's fairly close. I should also mention, I have never played Banjo-Kazooie. Big surprise, I'm sure. I own an N64, but I have not bought a single platformer for it. Now, putting all of that to the side, and understanding this is my opinion of the game, and you are still every bit within your right to love it, and I have no hate towards you or towards the developers. They made a game that I'm sure certain people enjoy. However, I hate it. Immediately running through the hub world, I thought, I don't think I'm gonna like this. The feeling of jumps was a little short, and I couldn't help but feel that all the animations were a little out of sync with the button press. I'm pretty certain it was no issue with my console, as I've had no other issues with anything feeling like out of sync, except for Yooka Laylee. Pushing past that initial feeling, I pressed forward, and immediately I felt overwhelmed with this game's weird-ass hub area. It feels far too large, and there's basically nothing you can do at the start. There are lots of paths every which way, however, so many of them abruptly stop when you realize you can't do something. They position pages all over in places where you have to do a challenge, however you can't do the challenge yet. You can talk to characters, but none of it makes sense yet because you haven't unlocked any abilities. It makes it feel like I have completely nothing to offer in this hub area and I just need to move on. It forces you in a linear path and yet surrounds you with options that aren't options. I understand the hub world might get more interesting as I go along, but to start, it's a lot. I personally think the game should sort of push you towards the initial first level and get you used to the actual platforming on a level before putting you in a hub area that's a little too free. It would be a bit like an open world game, starting you in a tiny little town on the very outskirts, surrounded by dozens of different little things you can do, whether it's fishing, hunting, but you have none of the equipment to do so, and you're going to have to walk 500 meters because you haven't unlocked fast travel yet to actually start the story. It was honestly frustrating, as it just feels like they're leading me into a false sense of freedom. Now, I did mention earlier talking to characters. And while I was exploring, I ran into my first dialogue options. And well, I kind of wanted to throw up. This game takes the charming sounds and stylings of Animal Crossing and creates a monotonous, dreary drone of sounds that make nails on a chalkboard sound like music. And a personal gripe of mine is how slow it is to skip through the dialogue. Sometimes I click on something by accident, or I repeat the dialogue by accident. Just let me exit it. Don't make me spam click through the slow, boring, because that's all it fucking is. I would have preferred no dialogue noises and just text or voice acted, no matter how bad the voice acting was. Give me Microsoft Sam reading the lines for all I care. Anything is better than the noises they make. Moving swiftly along, we meet the only character design in the entire game I genuinely like. Our sketchy dealer Trouser. He's a snake who wears pants in the most snake way possible. Not to mention the fact that his name is Trousers, but without the S. Fantastic. Honestly, the best character design in the game. I genuinely love it. It's a shame none of the other character designs feel the same. Trouser is going to be our main man to unlock new moves in the future. We buy these moves using quills, but to start off each level, he gives us one free move. After unlocking our free move from Trouser, which is the roll move that allows us to get up slippery slopes, we head on into the first level of the game. We do have to pay a pagey to unlock it, and this will be a recurring thing. Now, this is more the type of open I like from a platformer. You enter into the level, and there is no one direction to go within the level. You look around, there are dozens of places that you can see you can jump on. You see quills everywhere, giving you a sort of lead towards which direction to follow as you go to collect things. Pretty solid. I liked it when I walked in. I remained optimistic and began exploring. While exploring, I 100% confirmed I'm not gonna like this. And one of the biggest things I noticed was how glaringly annoying the camera is. Now I understand, as mentioned earlier, it's inspired by an N64 game, a console with one joystick. But guys, ever since the DualShock 1, pretty much every single controller on the market has had two joysticks. Let me use both of them comfortably. The game likes to do forced camera angles, and they can be quite frustrating. In a platformer, you really have to be using the left stick and X to jump, so you can't necessarily have both your fingers on the sticks constantly. So it really does need to have consistent and comfortable camera angles. It is a crucial part of any platformer. It needs to feel fluid when I switch to using both controls so that I can look around and get an idea of the level, but it also needs to give me solid fixed camera angles at times so that it's comfortable to jump up on top of things. However, this game makes neither of those easy. The camera gets stuck on things in the environment all the time, and they either put you way too close or way too far with most of their fixed angles. If this is an attempt to make the platforming more challenging, don't use camera angles to make it challenging, then it just feels like you made a shit game. Make the actual jumps and the platforming and the puzzles more challenging, instead of making the mechanics around them so frustratingly bad that it's difficult to do. Now, the cameras getting stuck on stuff was something I ran into with Jak and Daxter. I believe I mentioned it in that video when I was talking about the game. Your camera has its own hitbox, and you'll bump into stuff and it'll really screw you over. However, I was able to forgive that game, at least a little bit, though I did say it as a criticism, because it came out in like 2001 or 2002. It's old. This game came out in the 2010s. There is no excuse for running into the same issues that were happening 10 years prior. For now, let's move past my complaints about the camera. And we're going to talk about another thing that completely sideswiped me in the first level. I briefly mentioned how I liked Trouser's character design. But when I started running into the other ones, in the very first level of the game, what are these fucking designs? The vending machine lady. Horrifying. Every single enemy design. Why do they look like this? And what is this phallic octopus with a tentacle beard? And what the hell is wrong with Laylee's face? Nearly every design in this game is horrific. If it's an art style choice, I didn't realize I was playing a fucking horror game. You can call it an acquired taste, but some people eat shit, and that doesn't make it a tasty treat. I despise the designs they had for these characters. It hit me like a fucking truck when I had to look at them for the first time in this level. I hate reviewing the footage to watch back. They're just so awful. Managing to push past that and continuing to keep my hopes high, I ran around and ran into an area with my first ghost. It was at this time that I really came to appreciate what I was in for. An absolute collectathon. Now I can already hear some people shouting at their screens. Well, of course it is. It's what it's supposed to be. How did you not know this? Well, I knew. I looked at the trophy list. I knew it was going to be a collectathon. But I didn't realize quite so bad that that is the only goal. Whereas other platformers may gain their challenge from doing some combat, doing some difficult platforming, and add an aspect of a lot of collectibles, this game ditches those first two and goes exclusively for collectibles and puzzles related to getting said collectibles. I appreciate that some people might prefer this type of gameplay, and that is why, as I said earlier, more power to you if you like it. But me personally, I hate it. I want a little bit of enemy challenge, not square kills the normal one, square twice kills the one with the hat on. The combat in this game isn't anything at all. The boss fights are mid as hell, and the platforming challenge comes from how awful the camera is, whereas the jumps generally aren't very difficult. It really is only collectibles. It's the only thing worth doing. It's the only thing you're supposed to do. Nearly every trophy relates to collecting something. And it's just exhausting. At least in something like Jak and Daxter, there was only two things to collect. Orbs and egg things. Or orbs and power cells, that's the name. Power cells, orbs. Easy enough. I had two things to focus on. Yooka Laylee, I have quills, pages, ghosts, hearts, health expansion things, which I think is technically the same as the hearts. I don't remember. They're pretty much the same. The stupid atom thing to change, which you'll see in a minute. And there's a fourth one that I don't even remember. Oh, the coin for the arcade thing. Like, everything is collecting. That's all it is. It makes this game artificially far longer than it should be, because all you're doing is searching paths you've already gone down for second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th times. I will come back to this in a minute. We must talk a little bit about one of those collectibles, and that was the atom thing I mentioned. You collect this little atom, you bring it to the weird chode lady, and she turns you and Laylee into a plant. But wait, there's more! You then have to use this plant form to impregnate other plants. Well, you know, in the plant way that you impregnate things. I don't know, you spray on it, which... And I honestly, the only thing this section left me asking is how much money on the Kickstarter was the put my fetish into the game tier? I'd like to know, like, where was it? Was it $50? Was it $1,000? Where did you have to go on the payment scale to get your fetish put in as a level design aspect? Asking for a friend. Once I had finished that weird-ass section, had collected a fair amount of pages, and gotten stuck at numerous platforming challenges where it felt like, well, I must be missing something, or I'm just completely stupid, I pulled up a guide. And it was on this guide I realized two things that were going to exhaust me. Number one, every level is going to require me to come back later to 100% it when I have extra moves unlocked. This, to me, is garbage. If people want to explore the level 100% when they're on it, I think that should be available. It should be possible to 100% the level. Even if it's way more challenging to 100% it, you should be able to. But no. This game forgets all that and forces you to go back to every level you've already done later when you have new moves. Trash. Trash. Immediately, I saw that and my heart sank. But number two, I discovered the expansion of worlds was an essential aspect to this game. You have to go in, collect enough pages, go out to the hub world, pay pages to expand the world, go back in, and now you can fight the boss, and have even more collectibles to search for. So, I exited to the hub world, I spent my pages, and the world got bigger. I jumped back into it and explored around more. Wandering my way around, I eventually found Rextro's little arcade coin, tried out the arcade minigame, was thoroughly whelmed, and continued to explore around until I discovered where the boss was. I platformed my way up with, honestly, an okay bit of platforming, got to the boss, and encountered a fight that was surely going to be annoying as all hell. Each fight, in each level, focuses on that level's unlocked move. So with each level, you get a free move from the Pants Snake. This level specifically gives you the free roll move. So this boss fight is focused on the roll. So this one was a head with stone teeth things, and it threw logs at you. So you had to roll up past these logs, jump them, go in between them, with the clunky, weird roll move, and then punch his teeth while he sprays fire at you, get launched back, and do that 3 times. After taking far longer than it should have, and watching a couple tutorials just so I could get an idea of what I was doing wrong, I managed to finish off the weird tooth monster. Finishing off the boss, knowing that I could not fully explore the world without further unlocked moves, I gave up trying to 100% it the first time around, since I knew I couldn't, and moved on to level 2. The next level is our obligatory ice level. But wait, there's something I have to do before I get there. I have to do a quiz show? You gotta do a little quiz show run by a Dr. Quack. And I immediately despised this level more than I can describe. The quiz show relies on you having paid attention to a few aspects of the game. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I have been hating the game so much up to this point that playing it was just something for my thumbs to do while I watched better content on my second monitor. So, whether it's my own fault or the game's, I was not ready for this quiz. I guessed, and each wrong answer led to what I can only describe and assume is the devs trying to be funny or cheeky by either making fun of the player, talking about the fact that there's a guide, or something along those lines. And it was just shit. It was just shit. And so with the taunting of the guide, I decided I'd pull up a guide and see. Only to realize there's like 60 potential questions out of like the 10 you need to answer correctly, and I was not fucking reading all that shit. It essentially gave me the 2 options school did. Guess my way through and fail, or read way too much shit and also probably fail. So I just decided to do what I did in school, which was guess. And just like school, I failed time and time and time again before finally passing my way through and never looking back. The ice level starts off with a brand new enemy. It's a little Yeti thing, but unsurprisingly, this brand new enemy is the exact same as every other enemy. It dies to 1 hit, unless it's wearing a hat, and then it dies to 2. On top of the boring enemy design, the entire ground of the ice world is slippery as all hell. So it looks like we're in for a fun time of platforming, guys. Slipping and sliding my way to our favorite pet snake, we unlock a few new moves. And now we can grab different items with our tongue and gain the effects from them for a short time. We can use this to pick up some bee sauce, which makes us sticky and allows us to roll up slippery ice slopes. There's also cannonball things that make us heavier and not get pushed by fans. And of course, we can pick up different elemental flowers that allow us to shoot things. This was actually kind of fun. It makes platforming a little more interesting, and it makes exploring the world a little more fun. Honestly, solid addition, Yooka Laylee. you're starting to grow on me. A bit like a mold or a cancer, but you're starting to grow on me. Exploring the level, I find a Kartos challenge. I'm not sure if they were going for a spelling that was really similar to Kratos and they were trying to reference something with that, but if there were, it was trash. Stop making me think of a better game. I will quit your game and go play a better game. Kartos is a cart. You and Laylee sit inside the cart. Kartos can shoot cannonballs, because of course he can, and they're completely useless. It is damn near impossible to hit, let alone kill anything with the damn cannonballs, because they just seem to go directly through a character model or an enemy model without doing anything. They fire far too slow to be useful, and their arc is incredibly weird. Dodging the enemies is difficult, as none of the speeds are comfortable, accelerating, slowing, or normal, and the jumps feel odd. This took me far too long, and it was incredibly infuriating. I at one point googled a guide to try and give myself a hand, only to read a few forum posts of people complaining that it was the most difficult aspect of the game, as they only get harder with each level. Already being frustrated, and now seeing a future in which I could be locked out of a platinum due to a few pages behind a few annoying cart-based levels, I took a break. Let me be clear, I had not been doing this all in one sitting. I've been stretching it out with before work and after work gaming time and a few weekends here and there, as I generally do. But this game was wearing on me, and this Kartos stuff was really wearing on me. Nonetheless, I completed it, and I moved on. I explored around the world, and I found Gloomy Gem Grotto, and holy shit, this is my favorite bit of platforming in the game so far. Interesting jumps. It had a gimmick of the entire place being dark, and you had to pick up light flowers to glow yourself, and you could jump gaps, and it was hard to see things. It was a little slippery from time to time. There was a few enemies to dodge. It was amazing. I loved it. I got to the end. I got the pagey. I left, and that was it. The section was incredibly short, and it's so far the only part I genuinely enjoyed. Back to the rest of the level, I suppose. I got to the next little section of platforming, and it brought me back down to hell rather than being in the clouds where I was with Gloomy Gem Grotto. This area is super cold, and in order to be alive and not take damage while walking around, you have to slurp up a hot coal so that Laylee is, or Yooka, whatever, the lizard, is hot while walking around. You then step on a little fire pit, light it on fire, slurp another coal, and continue along. Of course, this coal only lasts a certain amount of time. When it runs out, you begin taking damage. And here's where my first little criticism of this area, and one of the most annoying, comes into play. Every single time you run out of warmth and begin taking damage, the game feels the need to remind you that Yooka is cold. And so you get the noise. No, I have to capture him, that's the thing. Oh my god, I finally got him. Holy shit. Not without taking a bunch of fucking cold damage. Oh my god, I'm gonna die to the cold. Oh my god. Well, he says, so cold must get warm. So cold must get... every single time. And it pops up a massive dialogue box at the bottom of your screen. And I know. Of course I know. I was just warm a second ago. I fell off the platform, I landed in the water, I swam back to the start of it. While I'm swimming back, I take 3 things of damage, and I get the damn noise every single time, and the damn box telling me that Yooka is cold. I don't care. I know. If it was just a noise, it was just a dialogue line, if it was just something like just a sound, just audible, I'd be fine with it. I understand a lot of games do that. You take damage, you do something that's bad, and you get sounds. You get audible cues. But you don't need to fill my screen with a massive dialogue box telling me something I already know. Do it once, do it twice, do it 3 times. Every single time I take damage? Awful. Downright awful. To me, that's inexcusably bad game design. Whoever didn't bother to make it so that after a certain amount of time, it stops telling you something you already know is a complete and utter jackass. I said I wouldn't attack the devs, but come on. Come on. Awful. I eventually got past this section, not after a frustrating attempt to capture a ghost, and I moved on. I was sick and tired of the level, and I was ready to expand to go finish the boss. But not before I found the atom and went back to Octochode. And she turned me into a snowplow. Once again I ask, whose kink is this? Like, it's definitely a Canadian's. Whoa, don't look at me. I don't fuck with snowplows. I'm more a Zamboni girl myself. We get turned into a snowplow, and we plow over a few piles of snow to get the stupid little hats for the stupid little snowman. After collecting a few hats and managing to get one to the right snowman, I stopped caring about bringing them to the snowman and moved on to expand the world. I made the world extra big, got a little animation of keys. The animation of the key entering the lock was slightly off to the right and it clipped into the texture. Great job, guys. Passing through the key-locked door, I found my way to the boss. To get to the boss fight, we have a little isometric section that was actually quite fun, only to get vored by a sentient furnace. I go through a little maze in the sentient furnace's body, and it's some pretty solid, pretty interesting platforming. It uses the different aspects of what you've unlocked with being able to slurp up different elements. Pretty okay. Got to the boss fight. He was a giant chunk of ice. You just slurp up a fire flower and you burn him. And you light little fires behind him on, and he gets faster the smaller he gets. It took me 2 attempts and I did it, and it was just like fine. Really mid. It was better than the last boss fight, but it was really mid. I didn't like it. I then got the furnace to warm up, making sections of the level a little easier now that it's warm. And I headed out, ready to move on to the next world. This is another moment where I have to mention, again, as I said earlier, it was really wearing on me, this game. I had taken about a week to get to this point in the ice level alone. A full week. And that's not necessarily that it took me a large amount of hours. I had lots available to me, but I was finding myself coming home from work and just doing something other than gaming. I just didn't even want to touch my PlayStation. Knowing I had to do this plat was making me not want to game better than anything else has ever done. So if any of you out there are suffering from some sort of addiction, somehow find a way to tie that addiction to Yooka Laylee, you'll be cured. Because I tell you, nothing puts you off of something more than Yooka Laylee. Sex addiction? Yooka Laylee roleplay. Problem solved. Addicted to cigarettes? No, we don't need to put creepy, scary eyeballs on those cigarette packages. Just put a picture of Yooka Laylee. Boom. No way I'm smoking anymore. Again, like I reiterated, it really wasn't the amount of hours I was putting into it. I just didn't want to play. Helldivers 2 took me 10 days. I put 60 hours into that game for that plat. In 10 days. This game, I was already 14 days in, at least. I think about 18. And I didn't even have 30% of the trophies. And I had about 12 hours in the game. Maybe 10. I just hated it. In spite of all that, I vowed to push on. Mostly because I didn't know of any other game that started with a Y that wasn't Yakuza, and that's like a 50-hour plat. So I pulled up my bootstraps and dove into World 3. I was really not feeling this level, or as I've established, feeling this game at all. Every moment in this was an absolute chore, and I wasn't even halfway done this stage. I finished what I could, collected everything I could, and there were a few sparing moments of quality platforming. The way I could describe this game is like ordering a pop at a restaurant and receiving a glass of water with 2 Skittles in it. On their own, the water and the Skittles, they're appealing. But when you asked for a pop, and you got those 2 combined, you can't help but feel scammed. The level got marginally bigger. I was kind of disappointed by the expansion, but I jumped out and started going around. The fatigue was hitting hard. I know I keep banging on about it, but that to me is a mark of just a bad game. I had more fun playing The Walking Dead Destinies. I would rather challenge myself to speed run The Walking Dead Destinies than play this game again. I mustered all my strength, and I fought the world's tentacle boss, who I can only assume is related to the scientist lady. I made it through on my second attempt, and left the maze to move on to World 4, vowing to come back and finish all my missed collectibles. World 4 takes place in a casino. I started up World 4 on the exact same day I finished World 3. I was playing with a few friends in a voice call, and I began to explore. And for me, World 4 was the straw that broke my back. It was visually awful to look at. It just was hard on the eyes. The colors were difficult to look at. The lighting was off. The scale and size of everything just made it feel daunting and exhausting. I hated it. The puzzles, all of them were annoying, and I had an unnecessary timer. The longer I spent on this level, the more my will to complete this plat was destroyed, picked away at, falling apart with every passing moment. I was exhausted. It had been 3 weeks, over 3 weeks, and I was a 30% through a plat. This game put me in a terrible mood every time I played, and it just was disappointing. It wasn't making me scream at the top of my lungs for being mad. It wasn't even getting me to yell. It was just making me sit there going, why am I doing this? And that's the first time I've ever had that with a plat. And I've picked some stupid plats. And I'm sure to do some stupid plats in the future. I plan to do fun to watch, not fun to do, challenging plats. I plan to do ones that are gonna exhaust me and make me frustrated, but not in the same way this game did. Something about it just picked away at my very will to game. Not trying to exaggerate. I can't describe how much I disliked it. And so, after doing a few sections of World 4, I couldn't do it. I closed the game, took the disc out, stuffed it back on the shelf, and I found a different game starting with Y. And so that same night, I booted up a wonderful little PSN game called Yet Another Zombie Survival Game HD. Well, yes, at the start of this challenge, I challenged myself to do full games. I had put 15 hours into Yooka Laylee, and my heart and soul, and I could not do it. So I jumped into Yet Another Zombie Game Survival HD, and got myself an easy little 5-hour plat that night, and a little bit the next day. And my oh my, did it make me feel so much better. I got a serotonin boost every trophy. The gameplay was miles better than I expected. I had a blast. I was able to play with a friend. I had another friend playing on Steam while we were talking in the same voice call. She was having a blast. I was impressed. For a game that was free on PSN, and I think it's PS Plus Extra it's on. One of the tiers. For a game that was free and a game that was, I think, $6.99 separate. Fantastic. Honestly, if you like a silly little top-down sort of zombie survival game, it's really quite good. It's a 5-hour plat. I finished it in about 4.5, 5. And I had so much more fun doing it. Played with a friend, Riley. We were laughing the whole time. So there it is. I quit on a game. I did an alphabet plat game that I couldn't finish. Bit off more than I could chew and couldn't stand to finish Yooka Laylee. I still got my Y Platinum, but unfortunately, it was not the game I set out to do originally. I still spent 20 hours on this letter, so I'm personally counting it. But I don't plan on going back to do Yooka Laylee anytime soon. However, it is a game sitting on my trophy list at 30-something%, and I can't have it stay like that forever. So, eventually, I will plat this game. But I will give an incentive. If some fools decide to subscribe to my awful content, and I hit 1,000 before the end of this wonderful year of 2024, I will finish the plat on stream. I will get every bit of gameplay recorded, and I will make a little compilation to celebrate 1,000 subscribers and play this awful game. I don't think it'll happen. To be clear, I'm making this not to try and force people to subscribe. Give a little incentive, but mostly because I'm pretty sure it won't happen and I won't have to play this game anytime soon and I can leave it for another 2 years. But there it is. Put it out there. Gather up your alt accounts if you want to see me in pain. Otherwise, this game is going to rot on my shelf. And I like it that way. And hey, never asked it before. Like button, subscribe, I don't fucking know. Or don't. Honestly, dislike it and leave a comment saying how much I suck. Give me all your bullshit. Tell me how terrible I am. Tell me how much you love Yooka Laylee and how much you spent on the game to get your king into it. I want to know who the snowplow person is. I want to know.